Europe is facing a kind of summer it has not seen in at least 500 years. Historic drought conditions and massive wildfires have cost nearly 12,000 lives across the continent. The European Drought Observatory says that over 60% of the land area of Europe and the United Kingdom is now under drought warnings or even alerts. And France is struggling with successive wildfires and heat waves leading up to its worst drought ever recorded. A fire in southwestern France that was thought to be under control has flared up again. There is a monster wildfire near France's wine-growing heartland of Bordeaux. Another one in the Gironde region has destroyed more than a dozen properties and scorched more than 6,800 hectares of forest. More than 1,000 firefighters backed by water-bombing aircrafts have been deployed to curb the fires. Officials have blamed dry weather conditions and investigators are looking into suspected arson.
As we speak, the fire is still progressing. It caught us by surprise with its direction. It created its own wind, its own story, its own movement. It has now decided to head off towards the north with two major fronts.
Southwestern France is a region known for its pine forests, which is already ravaged by flames last month. Temperatures in the south of the country are expected to reach up to 40 degrees Celsius. A major highway near the city of Bordeaux was closed on Wednesday afternoon due to the fire raging nearby. French Interior Minister has announced that more firefighters have been sent to the site in an effort to contain the blazes. French President Emmanuel Macron has tweeted that 5 more European allies are providing help. The firefighters are currently battling 8 major wildfires across the country, including the massive blaze in the southwest. Germany, Greece, Poland, Romania and Austria have pledged aid against the fires, following the firefighting aircraft provided by Sweden and Italy. Last month, the major wildfires in Gironde region had forced the evacuation of over 39,000 people, including residents and tourists. Now, the fires have destroyed another 17 houses and at least 10,000 more people have been evacuated. Tania Martha Thomas, research officer at Climate Chance, is joining us live from Paris. Tania, welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you for having me.
How bad is the situation right now? We understand over 1,000 firefighters are currently battling the Landillas fire in south of Bordeaux. Give us a glimpse of how the situation is currently.
Of course. So you mentioned that the fire had actually started in July and was not under control. And as early as July, we could smell the smoke from this fire that's in the southwest of France all the way up in Paris. That's how dire it was. And now the situation's gotten even worse, with the fire burning so intently that the fire chief, the firefighters have been stating that the high temperatures have given rise to winds, with the fire creating its own wind and then becoming more unpredictable and spreading in different directions. And there have been thousands of people that have been evacuated. Thankfully, there have been no lives lost, but there have been serious injuries among the firefighters. There have been water bombarding jets, which is already problematic in a time of drought. There have been strategic burning that has been done by the firefighters to sort of quell the fire, to stop its spread. But so far the fire has not yet been mastered, and this is quite a record fire in France, because what we've observed this year in terms of the overall area that's burned throughout France is 6 times the average that has been observed in a year until now. And I think that sort of captures how dire the situation is.
Right. Tania, officials warn that massive wildfires will further spread. How can governments prepare for such calamities, which are becoming the new norm?
Of course, preparing requires anticipation, and this is in terms of climate and meteorological data to be able to predict when such fire hazards would be the most probable. And this is something that is already being done. And other steps that could be done are better forest management to make sure that forests are less prone to such fires by planting more fire-resistant species, more native species, by ensuring better spacing between the trees, and also by ensuring that local forest management services are really well involved and are on their guard to ensure that there is no such fire risk. And all of this working together with the anticipatory measures is all we can do in terms of preparing ourselves for such fires.
Right, finally, Tania, series of heat waves, droughts and wildfires are breaking records. Can this be reversed by the climate action efforts being undertaken right now by nations across the world?
Well, that's a complicated question to answer. When we talk about climate action, we can talk about either adaptation or mitigation. And adaptation is learning to live with these effects of climate change that we're seeing already. And so this would mean that these droughts and wildfires would still take place, but we would be better prepared to deal with them, and we would be less affected by them. But at the same time, adaptation has its limits. You can only adapt to a certain amount, and that's where you need to mitigate, you need to reduce the effects of climate change, and this is something that we need to act on immediately to make sure that we stay within the 2-degree warming limit. And the action that countries and governments are taking right now all support this goal of staying within the 2-degree limit. And this would greatly help us to make sure that these events don't get worse. Reversing these would be much more complicated. They'd require much more effort. This is not something that we want to hear, but the current efforts that we're going would that we're carrying out would definitely go into making sure that these events don't get worse. And then once we reach that point, we can work further and harder to make sure that we can go back to a point where it's all manageable.
Tania Martha Thomas, thank you very much for your time and for talking to WION today.
Thank you.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.